Good evening, Rabbi. Good evening to Torah Anytime. Thank you for being mefitz and letting us learn Torah and let so many Yidden learn Torah. I was in Brooklyn on Shabbos, and two people I bumped into said, "I see the Zera Shimshon Shiur on Torah Anytime." Baruch Hashem, Torah Anytime is doing its job. Kenai Nahara. So today is Le'ilei Nishmas Feiga Bluma Bas Tzvi Hirsch Alei Shalom.
I think she was with us this past week.
Oh, so Neshama's 11 and Aliyah. And we're going to say a prayer for the hostages being released. Bez Hashem will do that. We'll say a Shir Malis after the Shiur. I also want to make this Shiur also for his chus for Rina Sara Bas Ilona. Sie soll sein gesund, and she should see Yeshua's Bekarev.
Amen.
Okay, Rabbi, we are now in the Chelek of second week of Shoivavim. As well as it's Parshas Ve'era. We're going to do Tav Kuf Chaf Hey, letter Tes. It's actually something we did 5 years ago. But I'm not sure how much of the Olam was here 5 years ago. So I'll come and das Ibrizogn and be Dvarim Shenes Chadash Boy. Medrash Rabbi Amar Rish Lakish, page Tav Kuf Chaf Hey. Amar Rish Lakish. Over there, the Girsi says is Reb Aben Halevi Berebi. Mimakas Dam He'e Shiru Yisrael. From Makas Dam, Yidden became wealthy. The Medrash says that not only was Makas Dam a punishment for the Mitzrayim, all the fish died, they didn't have any water. Is Vasam Zigiton. What did they do? They had to go to the Yidden. As we know, the famous Medrash. When a guy would hold water, it would be blood. When the Jew held it, it would be water. If the guy paid the Jew, it would be water. If he grabbed it away, it would be blood. Meaning, we don't find this by the other Makkos, Rabbi Sai. That Orev, Dever, Shchin, Arba, there was no tit for tat, there was nothing, there was no business. Either the animals attacked or they didn't attack. The animals died, the Edens didn't die. In none other of the Makkos do we find that Klal Yisrael had an opportunity to make money. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think they were price gouging?
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure Wusim gekent rasen von der Goyim am rausgerissen. No question. The Mitzrayim, it was payback time.
They did it so well that they're still doing it today.
That's where they learned how to do it. This, in the first Makkah, asks the Zera Shimshon, right? V'yesh l'daktik, ma tzoyrech hoyes sheyis ashu yisom emakas dam. Why did they have to? Haloi, didn't the Rabbi Shalom promise them? If this is the purpose of this, is they're not ready to leave now. They're not leaving now, so we have to have money now for. HaKadosh Baruch already told them b'hatchala in the beginning. You're going to get it b'derech she'ela. K'dechsiv v'yiki selechem le'selechem reikam v'shar le'ish you'll ask. That itself is a sugya. Why did they have to go out and borrow? That the Zera Shimshon talks about. We're not on that point right now. But the etzem inyan, if sai v'sai, if anyway, Klal Yisrael would be getting money because so it was promised and was foretold. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avram Avinu, this was foretold hundreds of years earlier, that they would be in Golus. It was foretold that they would end up being there from the time of Leidas Yitzchak, from the time Yitzchak Avinu was born, was the 400 years. And If that part happened, you can bet your bottom dollar, pun intended, that get all the money too. So Vosebs have to get money now. Zok the heilige Zera Shimshon, a hafla of a fella de kapshat. V'yesh loimer de Isa beperches de Baba Basra. Dorish Repinchas, Bar Chama, Kosho Aniyas betoich beisoy shel Adam yoysem echamishem makos. Poverty. The Gemara says, being poor, lo yaleinu, not having food to give to the kinderlach. The Gemara compares it to chamishim makos. That means like all of the tzudas that happened in Mitzrayim, according to the Shita, b'Mitzrayim hoya chamisha makas v'alayom was 250, right? All of those tragedies and all of those difficulties and all a person who was hot nish kein Geld, the person was hot tzudas, tov kuf chof hey, is like he has makas. Vidoe sheb'Mitzrayim loku chamisha makas.
Makas means like he got hit, or Makas means like the Makas similar to the ones that we're talking about?
Similar in the sense that it's just as when a person has makas, a person feels, in Hebrew they call it dafuk. They're beat up. Nachon. It's they're so what life isn't. The Gemara says ani is choshev kemes, like a blind man who can't see. Right? Ani is choshev kemes. Now, says the Zera Shimshon, just make one very simple pashat cheshbon. The Eibishter is bringing makas to Mitzrayim, right? And Klal Yisrael, as avodim, who were given nothing, are starving in their homes. Do they really care so much that the Mitzrayim are getting these makas? Chumash was to give, I don't have what to give to my kids to eat. I don't have what to give them to eat. Okay, so they're also they deserve it. But if Klal Yisrael becomes wealthy, if Klal Yisrael had geld, so Klal Yisrael now has no tsaros, they can appreciate the makas so much better. Whatever we need to learn from the makas, as we'll see in our Maharal Shiur Be'ezus Hashem, whatever we need that the makas were there for Klal Yisrael as well, those things can only be appreciated if first you mitigate, you take care of the tsaros that Klal Yisrael is in. Says the Zera Shimshon, "V'kavanas hakadosh baruch hu lo hidia leMitzrayim she'osa makas habois aleihem heim b'shvil Yisrael." This is also, or one of the reasons is because look what you did to the Jewish people. It's a payback to them. And it's there to be mafli, to show a difference. Lahafli, ben Klal Yisrael, leben, you Egyptians are not like my children. But what do you mean? You have a bad matzav and they have a bad matzav. Scheiner are both alapanim. We're both in a terrible situation. Laha'ashiras Yisrael b'makas dam. Shehi arishoyna. So the erste Zach, Klal Yisrael was given. Mitzrayim were given a makkah that gave Klal Yisrael the opportunity to no longer feel bullied, no longer feel like they're losers, no longer feel like they're schnorrers, chalila. No, we're dignified people. Who's got money now? How much do you want for this cup of water? Vifa Vilsta, right? You're going to pay the Rebegelt, okay? You don't want it? No problem. And then they get upset because the Jew's holding the water, so they grab it away. What happens? Turns into blood. Right. That's right. No money, no water. That's it. Nothing. Right? Leave it to the Eibishter to do it. That's right. So that was the purpose of the Makkah also changed the status of Klal Yisrael, the mindset of Klal Yisrael changed, and like the Zera Shimshon teach us, they wouldn't have appreciated the Makkos. The Makkos wouldn't have meant the same thing, and they wouldn't have been able to see the Yada Chazok of the Eibishter if they're sitting there. I have nothing to give to my kids to eat. What am I doing? From them. Very nice, good. Let him give it to them, but I don't appreciate the Yad Hashem. So the pressure of Mozain was off. Klal Yisrael was already Baruch Hashem Zem Shangahat. They had money. They had financial security. Now they could be a mensch. Now that they're a mensch, let me sit back and watch how the Rabbeinu Shalom goes through month by month by month all the 10 makkos. It's like lahavdo, like a season, right? Every month is not every Sunday, but every month, a week of showtime. How the Eibishter was mamish his oil, how he made fun of the Egyptians. And now, safe and secure with Parnasa, the Jews were able to appreciate everything that the Eibishter was doing. Oh, maybe it's even a lesson at Leila Seder. When we tell over the story, we're supposed to be like Bnei Malachim. You sit with the nicest, in the best situation that a person can possibly be. Because in order to appreciate the Maisa, in order to appreciate the story, a person has to have that security of being able to feel as a Ben Melech, that he has what he needs, and therefore he can say over Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim in the best way possible. That's one. I have another cheshbon. Outs mida keneged mida. It says the Zera Shimshon, the Isa B'Zayv Reish Perek Boy. It says over there, V'Zela Scheiner. You know, Paroi had 3 advisors. Paroi had 3 advisors. Who were they? Eov, Yisroi, Bilam. Right? Bilam said, wipe them out. Eov, Yisroi ran away. He didn't want to be part of this. Eov de mekarve ita de pareharva. He was one of the giving ita is the eitzes. Because kom pare elovayu, the Yisrael bo lemiktalan, lekatlalan. He wanted to kill them, the Jews. Amalei loy. Eov said no. What did he say? Toil memoinehen v'shalit al gufeihen bepolchana kashav leitiktalan. Take away their money, work them to the bone, but don't kill them. Torture them, punish them, strip them of all their money, denigrate them, but don't kill them. Amalei Kadosh Baruch Hu, aha, that's an interesting eitzah. You know what I'm going to do to you? I'm going to tell the Satan he can do whatever he wants, but not kill you. Take away his money, take away his kids, take away everything you have. Mida keneged mida. The Gemara Baba Basra, Sefer Eov, the Eibishter took away everything, but he said to the Satan, you can do anything you want, but you got to keep him alive. Says the Zera Shimshon, what you did is that's what happened to you. Mida keneged mida. Al kopanim. Since the Golis began by taking away the Jewish money, you know how they started working? First, they started taxing them, right? They started taxing them. Koidim, the Yidden had money. Eventually, when they didn't have money, they made them work. Eventually, they were meshabed them. It happened tier by tier by tier. So, oibazoi lechem mida keneged mida metchila ha'ashira Yisrael. Va'achakach ha'metzuyim loku begufam. Va'achakach chutzach l'kaim gzeres Avram. So, therefore, taking Klal Yisrael out, they reversed the process. You took away our money first, then you went and hurt us. I'm going to take away your money. Take away your money, Egyptians. Give it back to the Jews. Shtickle a payback. And then, afterwards, we're going to start punishing you. So, Makas Dam, if you think about it, Abissa Latifer...
wasn't painful, you know. Like
that, Mayor, Fashtei doch ja. Makas Dam, in a certain sense, didn't really affect the Egyptians as long as they were willing to pay the Jewish people. It wasn't an uncomfortable Makkah of sorts. Just pay and you get what you want. The Jews had water, the Jews had fish, the Jews had this. It was a psychological makkah. It was a makkah that said, you people, you bullies, let's see, you big shots. Yeah, now you need to, now you have to come on to us. If you think about it, it wasn't like Tzvardeya that was jumping into their houses. It wasn't like Kinim that they were already that they were full of lice. It wasn't like Arv, etc., etc. This was unavoidable makkah. Tzula bisila geld. That's all you got to do. Pay a couple of piastas, maybe more than a couple. We'll make you pay for it. But it was degrading. It's right. It turned the tables psychologically of who is the bully and who's. At that point, the Eibishter took and moved the pendulum that Klal Yisrael already started to feel like we're no longer pushovers. The Eibishter, that's what Makas Dam accomplished. Klal Yisrael had money. Klal Yisrael was able to have self-respect. Klal Yisrael no longer felt bullied by the Egyptians. It wasn't a Makkah that was dangerous in any way, shape, or form, but it was psychologically and practically an important Makkah to shift the energy away from the Egyptians and bring it over to the Yidden. That's what Makas Dam accomplished, and it did a great job. From that time going forward, Klal Yisrael, they had money already. They had already a certain self-esteem. Good. Oy bazoi, frek the heilige Zera Shimshon. So I have a question. If Klal Yisrael had geld, they had already money. So what's the v'achar kach yetzu b'chush gadol? So what's this big buyout, or not buyout, this borrow out that they're taking away? If they're already rich, they're already wealthy. They're already able to do extensions on their house. Yeah, they could upgrade. That's right. They already had what they needed. We'll see. V'oid kosha. The Berger kama de soita. I want to ask a stira, says the Zera Shimshon. Everybody says, the Torah says, that because of the schus of Avraham Avinu, that's why they were wealthy. State a Gemara in soita. Says the Gemara, Bischar Noshim Tzedkonias. Maybe we'll get a Gemara site over here for a minute, please. Shkoyach. Bischar Noshim Tzedkonias Niglu Aveiseinu Mimitzrayim. The schar of Noshim Tzedkonias. It's a Gemara in Soita Daf Yud Aleph.
It's like perhaps maybe the reason that starts with the psychological benefit to Klal Yisrael.
Yes.
The Ari HaKadosh says one of the reasons the Jews are in Mitzrayim is to be able to take their da'as out of exile. It's a da'as issue. So when a person wants to focus on the Shechina, on something higher, you first need to quiet down the troubles on the lower. Maybe this lets them not worry about the physical to focus on it.
100%. They have to be in a miyushav dika place. That's right. Ein Shechina shoyre el metoich simcha. They had to get out of that atzvos. Good gesagt. Steht in the Gemara Azoy. We'll give a little bit more background. Says the Egyptians were terrible. They switched the avodas. Now, the merit of the women who were mamish tzadekos, those women nigalu Yisrael mimitzrayim b'shah sheholches lishav mayim, when they would go be shoev to get water. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mazmim lehem dagim kedanim b'kadeihem. They had little fish. Fish is also v'yidgu l'roiv b'kerev ha'aretz. Kleina fishalach. They saw that as a sign. The Eibishter is talking to them. How did I get all these little fish over there? It's coming in my basket. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to me. V'shoeves mechzamayim u'mechzas dogim. They had half water, half dogim. Ubaz v'soif soy shtei kaderes achas shel chamin v'achas shel dogim. They would go ahead and prepare food. U'moilicha meitzel ba'aleim l'soda u'marchitzas oison v'soichen oison u'machilas oison mashken oison v'niskan ben esvasayim. And the women, in as much as the husbands were not interested or couldn't, they were being battered, they were being beaten. And what was the man? Now you want to have kinderlach, chenished. And the women pashit like seduced their husbands just so that there should be kinderlach. Shenema im tishku ben svasayim. Bischar, that they went out of Mitzrayim, number one, v'zochu lebizas Mitzrayim. And that's why they got money. Shenemar kanfe yoyne nechbu kesef v'avraser bi'irakwek charutz. So they got the kesef, the silver, says Chazal came because of this. Ask the Zera Shimshon, versteh nicht. That's not what it says in the Torah. The Torah says it's B'schar Avram Avinu. Dort steht it's B'schar dis Nashim. How are we supposed to reconcile the two? He's going to answer this with a peladik, a Kabbalistic way of learning Pshat. Lamer Zen. Question number one. Well, question number one is, if they were rich, why did they need more money? That's question number one. Like it says, Kanfein, I just read you the Gemara. I'm asking you, please. There in the Gemara Brachas it says, so that Avram Avinu shouldn't have tinus. Is it because of Avram Avinu? So Tzaddik, you're meshabed them? Or is it like the Gemara in Saita? It's because of the Noshim, the Memon of Shach. Oy zochul lebizas Mitzrayim b'shul hanoshim, oy b'shul avtochas Avram. Echze mistader. How does it work together? Says the Zera Shimshon, I'm going to answer these stira with a different Gemara and open up your eyes to understanding what Klal Yisrael did wrong, that they deserve 400 years of gullus, and they deserved 86 years. Miriam, you know where she got her name from? Mar, bitter. Because in her life, she was 86 years old. 86 years of Gehenna that Klal Yisrael went through. Mamish, like living hell they went through. Favos, what did they do wrong? The Zera Shimshon addresses this and answers all the questions with this yesod. Let's go. Why Taka did Hashem tell Avram, you're going to get a rechush gadol? If it's a schar tarich v'amol shibuda, if it's because they're going to work so hard, so that if I'm going to let you know you get paid, could you imagine that? Don't worry about it. You'll work difficult, but you get paid. No. Avram yochel leimer lo titin li ashibad v'lo titin li arichshus. Like it says, lo meduvshach v'lo muktzech. I don't want your honey. I don't want your sting. You know what? I don't need the money. Taseli tova. Don't make it work so hard. And if it's because of the sins, what do you have to have the rechush? Zog the Zera Shimshon, there's a Gemara in the Durham. The Gemara says, when Avram Avinu went to war against the kings, when Lot was captured, he went to war. Avram Avinu captured all of it was Arba Malachim Keneged Chamisha, the Arba beat the Chamisha, and then Avram went and captured them. State that Avram Avinu had everything. And Sodom said, keep the money, give me the nefashis. What did Avram Avinu do? I don't want your money. What about the nefashis? He let him have it too. That was a critical error. You could have taken these nefashis and you could have brought them tachas hashchina. Why'd you give them away? Why did you squander away those neshamas? Says the Zera Shimshon. Why was Avram punished? He had to have done something wrong. Rabbi he could have had people coming tachas kanfei shchina. He set them away. Avram heishev hakol. He gave back everything. Bein hanefesh, bein harechush. He gave the rechush lo yeshiva minas chasidus. Fine. because even though Melech Sodom was Misyayish, he says, look, keep the people, keep the money, keep the whole thing. Says the Zera Shimshon, go to the bottom of the page on this column. Avol hanefesh, 2 lines from the bottom of the page. Aval hanefesh hichziru sheloi min hadin. He had no business. Avram had no business as the Zera Shimshon of letting those neshamas get away from him. Again, nenshu banav b'shibud, and that's why his kids went to Mitzrayim. Shehoyoloi lahatzel oison hanefashos metumasam v'lachzirem lekedusha. He should have brought them back to the kedusha. V'zeu agolos oidavka b'Mitzrayim. Now, go back, Rabbi Isai, 2-3 pages on page Tov Kuf Chof Aleph. In this week's parsha, 4 or 5 pages back. Second column, Vinoida. He now quotes the Ari HaKodesh. These neshamas, the 600,000 Jews who came out of Mitzrayim, it was their 5th Gilgul in this world. Those neshamas had been in this world and had opportunities of fixing things up and just messed up. Who are they? State, now we'll read it together. V'noida, and it is known. Sheyisrael b'Mitzrayim tiknu hapegam shel daled doiros. 4 previous generations. Enosh, who served Avodah Zarah. Mabel, Sidoim, and Dor HaPalaga. And it's Rosh Tevetz, Hamoitzi, Eschem, Metachas, Sivlois. Hamoitzi is Dor HaPalaga, Eschem, Aleph, Enosh, Mem, Mitachas, Mabel, Sivlois, Sidoim. The last one was Sidoim. They had been there, Dor Enosh, the 3rd generation of humanity, served Avodah Zarah. Those same neshamas came back 7 generations later. Hashem Yisbarach was going to give him the Torah. He was going to give them Moshe Rabbeinu. Shteitach in the Gemara in Chulin. Moshe Menatar Menayin Shenam B'Shagam Hu Basar. Moshe Rabbeinu was, so neshama should have been brought down to the world in the 10th generation. Asiriyeh Kodesh. He was supposed to come down then. B'Shagam Hu Basar, state the Gemara in Chulin, Daf Tzadik Gimel, I believe, or Tzadik Aleph. Says the Gemara over there, because the Medrash brings down that the Torah was supposed to be given in the 10th generation. Noach would have had a shutef named Moshe Rabbeinu. If Noach would have done his job to get the people to come around, then Moshe Rabbeinu would have been born, Moshe Rabbeinu would have given them the Torah. That's why when it says, Ki amayim mishisiu, he didn't just take him out of the water of the Nile, he took him out of the 10th generation of Mehamabel, from Yenamayim. Then they came back down 10 generations later. Avram was already alive. Kol Olam Kule was on one side, Avram was on the other side. And Avram Avinu said, I'm not going with you people. And there was Dor HaPalaga. And finally, 4th and final time, they came back in Sidoim. And Avram captured and won the war. And these people were Poyo B'toich Yadayim. It was in his hands. Why did you give them away? If you would have been Mekarev them, the Yidden wouldn't have to go to Golis.
Why did Berger do it?
He didn't want, you see that he davened for them.
Right.
Now we understand that, connect the dots a little bit. Aber he didn't take, Favos, ich weiß nicht Avram's cheshbon. He didn't do it. Let's go back over there. We'll go to the next Vidoe, next paragraph. I skipped a piece of Kabbalah. Vidoe sheneshama shehoya b'Mitzrayim hoya gamkein asukos beklipas chet hadoros harishonim mabol hafloga Sidoim enosh shehoya nitzoitze shel adam harisha sheboye leisakim ba'oisen doros. It says in Chazal, Gemara Erevin Daf Yutes. The Gemara says that for 130 years, Adam Arishon was doing tshuva, separated from his wife. Ve'hoilid ruchais mazikim sheidim. He was not mizdakek with his wife. Those neshamas, those impure neshamas, came back again and again and again, and there was no tikkun. And that's where the 400 years come from. Arba me'ashana, because of these 4 dairis. Now, says the Zera Shimshon, if we understand what's going on, my Rabbi the 600,000 neshamas went through Gehenna because of all that their neshamas were Anshe Dar Hamabel, Anshe Dar Havai. Those were those neshamas. Dar HaPalaga, there was the Zelba neshamas.
I thought the Jewish neshamas were the good neshamas, weren't